Today we're recapping on our understanding of sentences and basic sentence punctuation. So we're really getting back to basics to make sure that we understand what a sentence is and then how we can correctly punctuate it. So let's take a look first at what is a sentence. Quite simply, it's a group of words that contains a subject or person carrying out some sort of action, and a verb, which is the action that is being carried out by that person. And together, the subject and the verb form a complete idea that makes sense. The first of four different types of sentence is the statement, a group of words that gives information about something or someone. For example, May ate an ice cream, or I am hungry. In each case, the sentence begins with a capital letter and ends with a full stop. A good way of checking to see whether a sentence is in fact a complete sentence is to read the sentence aloud and listen to the behaviour of your voice when you reach the end. For example, May ate an ice cream. Hear how my voice drops, and that's a pretty good signal that you have come to the end of a full sentence and that a full stop is needed. The second category or type of sentence is the command or a request that something be done. For example, open your book at page 11 or go to bed. In each of these cases, the sentence starts with a capital letter and ends with a full stop. Again, if you read the sentence out loud, you'll hear that your voice tends to drop when you have reached the end of a sentence, signalling that a full stop is needed. The remaining two categories of sentence are questions, which ask something. For example, how old are you? Or who remembered their togs today? In each case, a question begins with a capital letter and it ends with a question mark. In terms of the behaviour of your voice at the end of the question, often you'll find that a voice goes up when you reach the end of the question rather than dropping as in other types of sentences. The final category of sentence is exclamations, which express strong emotions being experienced by the writer or speaker. For example, that makes me so happy, or oh no. In all cases, an exclamation will begin with a capital letter and will end with an exclamation mark. So that sums up the first part of our session today, looking at the role of a sentence and the expectations for punctuating a simple sentence correctly. In the second slide, we'll be taking a look at an example of a student's writing and looking to check that we can identify indeed what a sentence is and how we can correct the punctuation in it. In the second slide, we're still recapping on our understanding of what a sentence is and how to punctuate it correctly. You'll remember from slide 1 that we determined that a sentence must express a complete idea that makes sense. It contains a subject and a verb, so a person or thing carrying out an action, that it is subject to punctuation rules, and that we can use our voice to give us a clue as to when we reach the end of a sentence. Although there are many aspects of sentences to explore, today our focus is mainly going to be looking at those requirements, and also working out how we can recognise that one sentence in our writing has ended and a new one must begin. So to do that, we're going to use a brief extract or excerpt from a student's own writing to test our skills. So here we have our excerpt, and the first thing I'm going to do is read it through using the clues that the writer has or has not provided me with to work out where sentences begin and end. I went out and played infected. I ran behind a building because I knew there was a fence there so no tagger could get me. I was on top of the fence with my friend. We talked about our escape route. So you'll see that without any basic sentence punctuation, everything runs into one long burble of words. So let's see now how we can use the fact that we need to have a complete idea in a sentence. It needs to contain a subject and a verb, and our knowledge of punctuation rules and the way our voices behave when we read slowly and carefully, to start putting in some punctuation to help us. I'm going to read now again using small chunks of the text. I went out and played infected. I ran behind a building, and there I'm going to stop because I'm hoping that you heard what my voice did after the word infected. I'll read it again. I went out and played infected. Can you hear my voice drop? That tells me straight away that a sentence has ended, and so I'm going to put in a full stop there. But let's check. I went out and played infected. Does that make sense on its own? It talks about I as being the subject, so it has a subject. And what did I in this piece of writing do? I went out and played. So there are two actions or verbs in that sentence. So yes, it meets the criteria for having a subject and a verb. Yes, it makes sense. And hey, yes, my voice dropped at the end of it. So we can be pretty certain that that is one complete simple sentence. Let's keep reading. I ran behind a building because I knew there was a fence there so no tagger could get me. I was on top of the fence. Did you hear it? My voice at the end of so no tagger could get me paused right here. Is there a subject? Yes, there is. It's still this person I, just as it was here. Is there an action? Yes, I ran because I knew, so there are several actions in there, so no tagger could get me. So once again, there's our clues, or it meets the criteria, and we're going to have a sentence punctuation in there. A full stop rather, because our subject and the first word of each of those sentences is the word I, which needs to be capitalised anyway, our requirement for a capital letter at the start of a sentence is also met. And the final sentence, the final line, or slightly more than a line, starts with the word I too. So let's just see whether we have one or two more sentences in this last chunk. I was on top of the fence with my friend. We talked about our escape route. We know straight away that there's going to be a full stop at the very end of this piece of writing, but let's look a little more closely at the bit I've just read. I was on top of the fence with my friend. We talked about our escape route. I know that my voice dropped after the word friend around here. So let's take a look at the bit that is written before that. I, there's our subject, was on top of the fence with my friend, was being the action, being on top of the fence with my friend, and it makes sense on its own complete statement. Okay, so that leaves one final sentence. We talked about our escape route, and the only thing that remains for us to do here the subject is we, because it's the first word of a new sentence, our lowercase w needs to become a capital. We talked about our escape route, and we've already put in our final full stop for that section. So that's how we use all 4 of the clues up here to check what a sentence is, whether a group of words fits the criteria for a sentence, and then how we can go about punctuating using basic punctuation skills. There's just one little thing that I do want to point out in here, and that's that there's a capital S there, but because that's in the middle of a sentence, there is no need for it to be a capital, so it just needs to be a lowercase s.